those two is Christine just happened to walk in on me playing it a few times.
Yeah.
So the first time she walked in, and I'm playing as the second female protagonist you play as in the game, Abby, who's this girl who looks very strong. And I think Christine was like, wow, that girl looks really strong. And we all know Christine's like really into weightlifting and stuff. So I think you liked seeing a strong looking woman in a video game.
I think I'd seen you play it before, but I didn't really look at it other than notice that you were playing a male character from the first series or season, whatever you
the first game, yeah.
And then later, I guess it was the second iteration and you were playing as a female character. I didn't know if this was your choice or how it worked. And then Ben explained it to me, like, you don't really have these choices. They kind of decide who the narrator or the main character is for you. And that's part of the storyline.
And this is going to sound kind of silly, but like one of the controversial things about the game, or one thing some people have had an issue with, is just the fact that there is that female character
and that
who
you have
looks
to
that
play
strong.
Her?
Yeah, the fact you play her because she does something that people who liked the first game a lot don't like. But I think it's just the fact that some people just took issue with the fact that there was a female character who looks unrealistically buff. And maybe it's not even fair to put it that way.
Because this is what I wanted to challenge.
I don't think you should take this criticism that seriously, because I think for the last, 20 years, people, mostly men, have been playing video games with completely unrealistic depictions of women with like no waists and enormous breasts.
Tomb Raider.
Yeah. Although to be fair to her, like as those games have progressed over the years, they've made her more of a real character and not just like a sex object for men. And I think we should be kind of careful in this conversation, just in the sense that I know people who are really invested in video games are kind of hypersensitive to the criticism of video games being sexist. But I think it's very fair to say it's kind of undeniable that the portrayals of women in a lot of video games have portrayed like hyper unrealistic female bodies.
At least historically.
Yeah.
Like that's what we're saying, that historically, decades ago, I mean, maybe the landscape is totally different right now. And on average, it isn't as bad as it used to be. But that's kind of the history of it, right?
But I just think like if you really take issue with the fact that there's a female character in the game with giant biceps, if you weren't also complaining about the like hyper unrealistic women with like enormous breasts and no waist and just like those unrealistic bodies, why would you have an issue with this unrealistic body?
But is it an unrealistic body that a woman just looks strong?
I think a woman could look strong, but like she looks more jacked than most of the guys in the game, which is interesting.
Maybe she just works out more.
Maybe, yeah.
Like I don't think that
maybe they have steroids in the.
No. I
should probably explain just briefly. Like the premise of the game is there's a infection that hits Earth, and it's essentially like a zombie game. The infection turns people into basically zombies. So you're kind of like 20, 30 years in the future of that outbreak, and society's trying to rebuild itself in factions, essentially. So in the first game, you're a guy who has a job to take a girl across America because she's immune to the infection, and they think maybe they can develop a cure from her. And the second game continues that story, and it really deals with the aftermath of the first game. And yeah, I think the storyline is, I don't want to ruin the story for anyone who hasn't played it, but I think the story is the primary, like the gameplay is whatever. If you like it, you like it. It's enjoyable. I think it's not that different than the first game, but you're really playing for the story so much so that there were points in the game which I like really didn't care about playing the video game. I really just wanted to see what happened next in the story. And I'm not going to say people who don't like the story are wrong. I think there are issues with it, but I really respect the fact that they went with they were very ambitious and bold in some of the decisions they made. Like this game is the opposite of fan service. They could have made a second game that just made people happy in the same way the first one did, with the same characters and just playing off the same sort of emotional tone. But they really went for a more ambitious and emotional story. And it's like super depressing and hard to get through, which is kind of an interesting thing. Like, why do we watch movies and TV shows that make us sad and are so dark and things?
To feel something.
Yeah, just to feel some sort of human emotion. Anyway, I'll tell you, I liked the story. And I think the reason I liked it is that it wasn't just, again, what I was saying, like there is a way of telling a story that just would have made everyone sort of happy, but it would have been very safe. And I really respect when there's a sort of artistic vision for telling a story of character growth and development that is sort of challenging for the audience. And I think just a lot of people didn't want that. Mm-hmm. And there's a point close to the end of the game, spoiler alert, where you see Ellie, who's the character you have like the most emotional attachment to. She has a chance to sort of let go of her need for revenge or let go of the past and just sort of accept a chance at a really happy future that she has. And you think the game might be over, and then you keep playing because she hasn't let go of the fact that she needs to get revenge for something. And that was why when you walked in on me at the end of the game and I was sad, I was thinking about that and thinking about how real a depiction of human fallibility that is. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are plenty of people who have a chance to make their lives better but can't let go of something or make an obviously bad decision or hold on to things.
So it's like teaching you deeper lessons than you anticipated upon entering this world.
I think it's a really mature and realistic depiction of a revenge story. And that also isn't just satisfaction about killing people.
Good. Yeah, I like that. I can appreciate that as someone who's not really interested in playing games surrounding violence. So I like that there's a bit more to this. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I did not follow the storyline. I just kind of asked Ben about it, mostly because I don't want to witness the violence. Yeah. But didn't they challenge a lot of norms, like in the storyline in terms of their characters? And didn't she have like a female partner at the end?
So yeah. So they're like, the main protagonist is a lesbian and has a female partner in the game, and and the other female character you play as is that absurd, very strong one. Yeah. So I think both the main female characters are sort of defying certain gender stereotypes. I think so there was some controversy around this game, partly because the plot of the game leaked actually months before it came out. And a lot of people reading that plot assumed that it was trying to project a very progressive kind of social justice message on people. I really don't think anyone who played the game from start to finish would actually reach that conclusion, because the two main characters are women and one of them is a lesbian and the other is strong. They're not like pushing that down your throat as if you have to like take some deeper political meaning from that. And anyone who feels that way, that says more about your baggage than the game, I think. Right.
Well, isn't that kind of what happened in some of the chatter rooms? Maybe it's men who...
The chatter rooms?
I don't know. There must be forums
wherever people talk about video games.
So like maybe men who were upset apparently with the second season of this because of the choice of characters and who they are, and you can't really change that. You're no longer playing the main male protagonist, right? So the fact that like they now have to play these women, may have challenged their beliefs and upset them in a way.
I think...
Which I like.
Well, I think the creators of the game deserve some kudos in the sense that I don't think they did it just to prove a point, but they knew they were going to get backlash just for the fact that, it's a video game where you're playing as a lesbian and a strong woman. And it's one of the best-selling games of all time, and it's a super high-profile game. They knew they were going to get backlash just for that fact alone. There is, another spoiler, there is a transgender character also in the second half of the game. And I thought that was done like really tastefully, and certainly not in a way that's trying to promote any sort of political agenda. Like, I really don't see how you could play the game in good faith and come to the conclusion it's trying to make you think certain way about things politically or be like a social justice warrior agenda game. Like, people who talk like that are just out to lunch, I think. It's kind of nuts.